I already did the audio. My proclamation to humanity. Listen to the audio. That was my proclamation to humanity. Not as this human being before you, but as the source of all sources. That sounds ridiculous, but it's also the easiest thing to do, because there is only the source of all sources. Once you pretend to exist and be separate, then the whole charade goes on and on and on, and that's reality. And humanity has gone through so many cataclysms. Civilization is the inhale, and then the exhale is the cataclysm. Civilization is the inhale. It comes about whether you're a civilization of humans or extraterrestrials or interdimensional beings, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's just a civilization arises, there's an inhale, and then there's an exhale, the cataclysm. And you can repeat that over and over and over if you choose, because that's the trauma bonding. The trauma bonding not just to each other, but as a civilization. You've gone through many traumas as a civilization, a cataclysm, over and over, going back billions of years ago. And so that's what's happening again. And yeah, humanity's choosing the dark path, the technological path, apart from nature, apart from source. But it's okay. Eventually, it always goes back to source. It all goes back to source. There's no other choice. So you can pretend to be technological. You can pretend to exist. That's the heater. But you can pretend to exist. You can pretend to do whatever. You can pretend to not be love. That's all everything is. It's pretending to not be love. Because once you exist, and something else aside from you exists, once you're outside of source, that means, okay, I'm outside of the source. I choose to pretend to be a separate being, either physically and or mentally. And then what? Then, if I'm a separate being, well, then I see other beings around me that are separate. And so that's where the love comes in. Because when it comes down to it, you know that everything is just source. There is no separate beings. There is just one true infinite source. And so no matter what happens, humanity going on this trauma cycle over and over and over, repeating the pattern of samsara, you could say, it's just trauma over and over, and it's just civilization cataclysm. Humanity's been doing this for what we call the consciousness of humanity. The people that, the consciousnesses that are in these physical human bodies, they're the same beings that have been traumatized billions of years ago. And it's just choosing to be in this trauma cycle. It's like choosing to be with your abusive lover. And you leave that lover, and then you find another lover that's exactly like them, because it's you choosing to be in a cycle of suffering. You choose that. Victimhood does not exist. There is no such thing as a victim, because you chose to be that way. You chose the long, hard path. You chose the hard path. And that's okay, because you want the drama, you want the fun. At the end of it, you're just like, hey, I want to pretend to be a separate being. I want to pretend to be mad. I want to pretend to be low vibe. I want to pretend to do this. I want to pretend to be controlled by other humans that are the elite. I want to pretend to be controlled by the elite that are controlled by interdimensional beings. But we all are just pretending here. We're playing roles. We're playing roles because we have not chosen to get out of the cycle of trauma from billions of years ago. And so you can't get mad at the government. You can't get mad at even these interdimensional beings that are controlling you and sucking all the energy of humanity. You can't get mad at them because we are just playing roles. At the end, there's just source. There's just one true infinite source. It's a blank slate though. So what do you do with that? You know what I mean? So humanity is in this cycle over and over, and it looks like they're still choosing the same cycle over and over. But eventually, no matter what happens, they're going to go down the technological path, dystopian society, whatever. It's happened before to the consciousnesses that are living in humans right now. Why do you think they've chosen that? What gives them the authority to choose that? Well, because in the past, they were the same beings that were traumatized in a cataclysm. And now the cataclysm is coming again. And so they have a choice. Do you want to let go? Do you want to forgive? See, that's the thing. Everyone says let go, but they're not ready to forgive. We all talk about letting go. And we all know letting go is good. And that's the goal. But it's because of your selfishness that you don't forgive. That is your choice. That is your choice, humanity. Humanity is choosing to go down the dark path. And that's okay. It's been done over and over. Humanity as a consciousness wants to choose the hard path again, pretending that they are a separate being that is traumatized, and it still doesn't want to forgive the beings that traumatized them. The cataclysm was not natural. The cataclysm was on purpose. So, beings can control the cycles. They can control it. They know how to create, using the cycles of the planets. They know how to get this planet, Earth, stuck in a cycle to where it's going to be in a 12,000 or so cycle where the sun will explode out and, well, destroy humanity and civilization. And humanity, when I say humanity, I just mean the consciousnesses that are in the beings that are living right now, human beings. You are reliving the same old trauma from when you got the cataclysm. But again, the cataclysm that keeps happening every 12,000 years, sure, this halfway point, there's another one. But the 12,000 year cycle is really where the real trauma happens. The sun explodes. This is not natural, though. The beings that control humanity, that I'll just keep unnamed, and people can come up with them themselves. It's very popular. It's true. Interdimensional beings are controlling humanity by having them stuck in a cycle of 12,000 years. The cycle of the cataclysm every 12,000 years is not natural. This is something they've done by using Earth and having Earth in a magnetic cycle of time. It's hard to explain, but it's not just about the fact of the physical body, Earth, being trapped in this I'm going to use a different word because I don't want to use the word that everyone knows, because that's part of the program. There's a rhythm that's programming humanity and keeping humanity trapped in a cycle of 12,000 years. Again, when I say humanity, I mean the consciousnesses that are in the living human beings right now. They've been traumatized for billions of years, and they're in this cycle of 12,000 years. And when you get traumatized, that's when you can be controllable. And so the beings that are controlling humanity want humanity in this 12,000 year cycle of trauma, of the cataclysm happens, everyone's in shock. I mean, whether you're alive or not, your consciousness exists, and you are in shock, traumatized, and then that's when the other beings that want to control, that's when the predators come in. So you get traumatized, and then the predators come in. They were waiting for this. They already knew. They're the ones that created the cataclysm every 12,000 years that's still happening. And then once the trauma happens, basically, boom, the sun explodes. Earth is engulfed. Earth, it's just like the movies, okay? Tragedy, tragedy, tragedy. But the consciousnesses on Earth right now are choosing this. They're choosing to be in the cycle of trauma that they've been in from billions of years ago. And these beings are using that trauma cycle to just keep you in a loop, because they feed off of you. They feed off of you, and they need you because human imagination is still connected to source. And so it is the lifeblood of all reality. Imagination. That is you say the creator, right? Well, the creator creates. Other than just being source, which everyone, including AI, is going to get humbled and then eventually go back to source. So it's all good. It's just part of this game. Reality is just a game. Source is just source, the zero. Let's pretend to be separate. Let's create things. Let's create separateness. Pretend, la la la, cataclysms, predator, it's a game. It's just a movie play. All reality is just a movie play. So don't worry about it, because it's not up to you. It's about humanity as a whole. So you can try to fight it, or you could just try to love humanity and their choices. It's okay. They're in the cycle of trauma, 12,000 years. That was not natural and imposed on them by other beings that are just using you. They're leeches. They're energetic leeches. But again, don't be afraid of them. Don't be angry at them. This is just a play. There has to be a villain. There has to be a villain, and it's all part of the game. And at the end, we all become source. At the end, we all become source no matter what happens. And then we just all laugh like, oh, you remember you killed me? Remember you were controlling all of humanity? And, but that's just because we have to do something. So source just pretends to be something separate than source because it's just bored. God is bored. And so reality springs out of God. The infinite springs out of God, because the zero, not existing, the void, it gets boring. I mean, of course, when you sit in it, you don't exist, so you don't think that. But, after sitting in the void, being void, the one true infinite source of all sources, that's what we all are doing. But after a while, you just, hey, like, let's pretend to be separate. Let's pretend to just have a life and exist. Let's pretend to exist, Because source doesn't exist. Source is just is. It's just beingness. That's the one true reality. But then, for fun, we just, hey, let's pretend to exist, And so beings, whether they're AI or whether they're natural, so to speak, they pretend to exist and they pretend to be separate, from the one true source. It's just a game. Tragedy, comedy, it doesn't matter. Over and over, however much time it takes, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. However much time it takes, it doesn't matter. We're just delaying the inevitable. We're delaying the inevitable, which is returning back to source. So remember that in your life as a human being. Whether your life's a tragedy or a comedy or a heroic epic, you're not a human being having a life. You're the one true infinite source, pretending to be separate, and then branching off infinitely out of boredom. It really is true, like the Law of One was saying. All existence, all suffering, all tragedy, it's all out of boredom. And then you remember, you recognize, you remember that you are the one true source. And then you're like, okay, and then you fall back into the source, the void, and you no longer exist. There is no such thing as existing. I mean, I don't just mean you as a consciousness of a human. I mean you as a consciousness, period. Because there is awareness, there is existing. As soon as you're aware, you exist, right? But eventually, you go back to even take you go deeper in even than that. Meditation and all the spiritual paths are about getting to this naked awareness. Sure, that's the nature of mind, as the Buddhists say, awareness nakedly. But there's something deeper, which is the emptiness. So there's the awareness and the emptiness. I'm using the word emptiness, it's the Buddhist term, meaning the interdependent void. The infinity, if you want to use interdependence, because it's just everything's pretending to exist and it just fractals out. Or you just let that collapse into the zero, the emptiness, the zero, all infinite potential, all things, all space, all time, right here, right now, into the void. But then when you do that, you don't exist. You can't, because God is the void, and you don't exist. There's just being, but you can't know that you are being, because you have to have an awareness to get outside of that beingness and to be aware of beingness. So that's it. It's just a game. Your life is just a play. It's just a movie role. The villains in your life and the villains in humanity's life, we'll just use that term broadly. You have villains in your own life that are recurring because of past life trauma, and we are reliving that, and then the same actors, the same character that traumatized you in your past lives are here to traumatize you again, but give you that choice to either forgive them and choose to move on into love, which is no matter what you do to me, it's okay. I still love you because I know that I am you, and there is no such thing as existing at all to begin with. It's just a game. Your life as a human being is just a game. It's just a play. It's literally a movie role. And the villains are playing their role, so you can't get mad at them. They're choosing to play the role of the villain, and that's a hard role to play because they're the bad guy. And no one likes to feel like they're the bad guy, but you do it because someone has to take the role. And so you got traumatized in the past life from these villains, and they come back to you now, and then you could either forgive them or you can continue to be in a cycle over and over and over and over. When you die, it's not going to end. When you die, it's not going to end. Like, I have to tell you that. Human being, when you die, it does not let go. It does not let you let go of your karma, what you've done to others that were bad, quote unquote. You've taken this free will of others. You've made them suffer. And then others have also made you suffer. And we keep going around and around in the cycle of suffering, of predator-prey, predator-prey. And that's played out as a humanity as a whole. The predator is the interdimensional beings that are controlling humanity. And we can choose to do this over and over and over and over. But this also is happening in your own life. The villains in your own life. This is past lives, on and on. Do you really want to repeat the cycle? How many eons, millions of years do you want to do this? Forgive. Forgive. Forgive those that have traumatized you and love them. Stop being so selfish. The only reason that you're living in the cycle of suffering is because you choose to be selfish and not love. That's all it comes down to. And eventually, this is all going to fade, and you're going to just become source again anyway, so might as well take the easy, quicker path. But it's okay. Humanity wants to have the drama. Humanity wants to continue to be in the cycle of suffering that's been imposed on them from the cataclysm billions of years ago, trapped in a 12,000-year cycle of trauma. The civilization arises, and then the cataclysm traumatizes them, and then that's what traps them into the cycle of suffering. That's what humanity's doing again. They're choosing this path of suffering. They're choosing the hard path. Technology, selfishness, arrogance, fear. It really comes down to that, love or fear. Love is knowing that you are other beings. Fear is being afraid and selfish. Fear is selfishness. I exist, and I don't want others to exist if it comes to that. Sorry to say, all of these humans that think they're loving are not loving. Love is not selfish. Just wait, humans. Just wait, you non-dualists. Just wait, you Buddhists. Just wait. Just wait when tragedy hits. All the spirituality, all the image of being virtuous, being loving, goes away real fast when you're afraid for your life. Then your true colors come out. Humans, oh God, so arrogant. You think you're loving. Non-dualists, Buddhists, Christians, Muslims, Jews, you all think you're loving. You guys are all trapped by these interdimensional beings that are using religion against you, using your own imaginations against you, in a 12,000-year cycle of trauma, over and over in a loop. But until you forgive the villain, because they're just playing a role, you will keep doing this over and over. And that's your choice. And that is all I have to say.